In this video, I'm going to talk about the new DJI Mini 4 Pro. I'll cover some details on the product as well as doing an unboxing, and also kind of talk about whether or not it's worth the upgrade from, let's say, your DJI Mini 3 Pro. So let's check it out. So I'm really excited. I finally got my DJI Mini 4 Pro. It took a lot of thought, a lot of research and justification to get it. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of go through the unboxing. I purchased the Fly More Combo Plus with the extended batteries. Let's check this out, see what's in the box. So looking at it, it looks pretty much what comes in the DJI Mini 3 Pro. The bag for the DJI Mini 4 Pro looks very much the same. I kind of wish they would have used the color that they have with the Air 3, the actual shoulder bag for the Air 3. I think that's kind of got a cooler color, but no problem. That works out. So again, this is a shoulder strap bag. And let's check out what's inside this bag. So we've got the actual Mini 4 drone. We've got the RC2 controller, and we've got the 2 batteries in the charging hub. Also, if you notice here, it's pretty much slotted the same as the Mini 3 Pro bag, pretty much the same. You also have some extra items here, and they kind of make a little notation, accessories inside. So looking in here, I've got your usual manuals for some late night reading if you want. And in addition to that, let's check out what's in here. Real quick, looking at the other things about the bag. It is a nice bag, it's pretty small size. It's got a front pocket in here, which is kind of good for little extras. You've got some additional room to put some other items here as well. Not really a lot of room considering this is the Mini 4 drone, so it's kind of a small bag. But it's not bad. Pretty good bag overall. So what's inside here? Let's check it out. So let's look at some of the things here. So you do get your extra propellers, which is kind of nice to keep in your bag just in case you have one or two get damaged for any reason. You also have that comes with it is the little screwdriver that you will use to unscrew or replace the propellers that might be damaged for any reason. In addition to that, you also have 2 cables. You've got a USB-C to USB-C cable. You also have a USB-A to USB-C cable as well. Of course, some silica gel here we don't need to worry about. And let's look at these other things before we actually get into the drone itself. So the charging hub looks pretty much the same as the Mini 3 Pro. Got the nice logo here. Got the little LED indicators here for the batteries. You got a button here. Of course, they won't activate until you actually start charging them and putting them into your drone. So there's a power button here. There's the input USB-C for charging the batteries, as well as an out for the USB-A to USB-C in case you want to charge like the RC2 controller, for example. So that's kind of an option. I do have the extended batteries, which give me a bit more flight time compared to the regular batteries. Of course, this kind of makes it weigh a little bit more than the standard 249 grams, so that's something to consider if you're wanting to get the extended batteries. In my case, I went ahead and got that for mine. For the RC2 controller, this was one motivator for me as far as wanting to buy or upgrade to the DJI Mini 4 Pro. And the thing that stands out right off the bat is that they do have now antennas on this controller. And this one, by the way, supports OcuSync 4.0, which actually helps improve the range capability of the actual controller, which is kind of a good thing. And it's pretty much the same as the one that comes in for the DJI Mini 3 Pro, but again, you've got the antennas and also the fact that they upgraded it to OcuSync 4.0, which is what you'd see in the DJI Air 3, for example. So it's pretty cool. I'm kind of glad that they did that. That's pretty handy. I'm kind of glad that they upgraded the controller. But that was one of my motivators for going to this new drone. So one thing that I do like about this guy right off the bat, what caught my attention about the Mini 4 drone is the fact that they now come with a propeller holder, which is kind of nice. It's a matter of just opening it here. It's a little bit tough, to be honest, but either way, it's kind of good. It does secure it. Yep, it's a little bit tough to start with, but it does wrap around. It does protect down here as well for the propellers and part of the sensor there. So that's kind of cool. They did this originally with the earlier versions of the Mini drone, not the Mini 2, but prior to that. And I'm kind of glad they circled back to getting the propeller holder here to kind of keep these from flapping, because I don't know if you notice, unlike the Air 3 or the Mavic 3, these propellers that have the screws on them, on the Mini drones, they kind of just go all over the place. And if you don't have anything to hold these, you know, especially when you're putting this in the bag, I mean, they're just, as you can see, they're just going everywhere. And just putting it in the bag or taking it out, you kind of risk the chance, you know, you have that chance of bending one of these propellers, and that's not a great thing to have happen. The other thing I like that's different from the Mini 3 to the Mini 4 drone is the actual gimbal protector here. So what they did here now is it not only protects the gimbal itself, but it also protects the front fisheye sensors here for the obstacle avoidance. So that's kind of pretty cool. And from what I've kind of heard around the websites, is another nice thing about this is that this actually is a lot easier to put it there in place. If you notice, this is way easier to lock in place. With the Mini 3, it was always kind of a challenge to get that gimbal cover here put on there without your camera kind of going all over the place. And it was just, to me, it was just kind of a pain to have. So I'm kind of glad they've got that in there. There's a lot of little pieces here that you kind of want to remove to prepare for use. So take those out of the way, take this off here. I usually kind of save these. I mean, I don't usually throw this because you never know. It's actually kind of handy if you ever had a reason to sell it, or if you're just, you know, traveling and you want a little bit more protection for your gimbal. That's kind of just good to keep that in your bag. So what I really like about this new design and features on this is I never really was fond of the Mini 3 not having these little legs on the side. Of course, this one has the little feet here as well, like the Mini 3, but it now comes with the front legs here, and I kind of like that a lot better than what the actual Mini 3 had. So that's kind of nice. And again, this thing has really cool new stuff. I mean, it does have the key changes here is these fisheye lenses for these cameras for the obstacle avoidance. You've got the ones in the back, and they're kind of laid out a little bit different than the Mini 3. Totally different design. Same thing with the fisheye lenses here. And that's kind of what gives it that 360 view around the drone, so that it can actually detect obstacles not just in front but on the sides as well. And on the bottom you also have the other sensors so that you can detect what's on the bottom of the drone as well. And another cool feature that's new on the Mini 4 drone is the fact that they included the LED light. Now this light is pretty strong and it's not there with the Mini 3 Pro. And what's really nice about it is that when you're doing like nighttime flying, you still have the little lights on the drone that you can see at night. You know, the red and green color lights that flash. But you really can't see it as well up in the sky. But having this light here on the bottom, it's really bright from what I've seen. And that's really good for any nighttime flying you might be doing. So that's kind of a cool thing about this drone that I do like. They did do a lot of redesign on the shape here. It's got a more of a curvy style to it, which I think makes it look a little bit better. It still looks like a little frog to me, but it has a lot nicer, smoother, curvy style to it. So pretty good overall design. It's amazing what DJI is able to do with the Mini 3 drones only weighing under 250 grams. That's really, really good how much they can put into this guy. So in the back here of the drone, you will notice you also have your battery. It's pretty much the same as like what you do in the Mini 3. It looks like there's on the inside, it's kind of hard to tell, but there seems to be more airflow. There's like, you can actually see the front over here, which is kind of good. I think that kind of probably helps with the heating issues they had in the past with the Mini 3. So hopefully that's going to help out some more. You do have, in addition to that, let me move that out of the way. You have your micro SD card slot here. You also have the USB-C connection here. Up at the top, you do have the LED indicators for power and also for turning it on. Of course, it's not activated yet, so I got to charge the batteries and go through that process. You got some air vents here as well, which is kind of nice. So yeah, pretty good design overall. I do like the new style of this. Some key things to note about this. On the camera itself, you're still looking at a 24mm f1.7 camera. So compared to the Mini 3, there's not much of a difference there. So now that I got my drone, let's talk about, is it worth upgrading from the Mini 3 Pro to the Mini 4 Pro? So it's kind of hard to justify it, and I spent some time thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, hey, should I buy it? But I've already got my Mini 3. I don't see as many features that might make it worth selling. And again, I already have an investment on the other drone. I've had it for a bit of time, but I had to think about it. So I had one big positive. The positive is I did find a place where I could sell my drone. I'll put a link in the description for the location where I traded my drone in. And I got a pretty good price. They're not a company that sponsors me or anything. I'm just gonna note them because that's what I did to kind of help justify buying this one. So I figured if I could make some money on the one I had, which is my Mini 3 Pro with the Fly More combo kit, then it might make it worth buying this. So that was one of my justifications. Things that justified me buying the DJI Mini 4 Pro drone. And things that kind of were a highlight that justified it to me was, like, for example, I've got the Active Track 360, and I do like that functionality. It does allow you to track yourself. It actually has an inner and outer circle that you can actually set up so that it can follow you. And that's a feature that's not there in the Mini 3 Pro drone. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of said, okay, I can buy this one because it does have something I can make use of. The other thing I did like was the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance, or sensing is what they call it. I think they call it also APAS, which is the Advanced Pilot Assistance System. So essentially it's just obstacle avoidance is what you're dealing with. And what gives it that capability, of course, is the fisheye lenses. Again, Mini 3 didn't have the fisheye lenses. They were more kind of flat. And on the new drone, the Mini 4, you have fisheye lenses that help do that 360-degree obstacle avoidance, which is kind of good. That, along with the other sensors at the bottom. So that's kind of cool. The other thing too that got my attention too was let me note one thing too. When you're dealing with the obstacle avoidance, I've seen some YouTube videos out there of crashes and this and that with people trying this out. I'm not going to try mine to the extreme because I know for a fact if you're looking at this to be 100% obstacle avoidance, it's not necessarily 100% from what I've seen. If you've got areas that you're flying in, let's say a lot of trees with dense branches, or maybe low light situations. Like in the dense branches, this drone doesn't necessarily at the moment do that well in detecting that. So more likely you're gonna see it crash. So I would kind of be cautious about that. I think if it's an open area and you want it to follow you and not crash, and actually it work well with its obstacle avoidance, then you're probably wanting to do it that way. I just kind of steer away from, at the moment, from dealing with locations that have dense branches. So hopefully maybe DJI will come up with a firmware update that maybe improves on that. But for now, I would still look at kind of avoiding that. The other issue as far as the obstacle avoidance not working all that well would be in the low light situations. So if there's not enough light, the chances are it's going to have an issue with working 100% with the obstacle avoidance. So I would probably be mindful of that when flying. So that's the other thing. So again, the other feature that was a selling point to me was the OcuSync 4.0. That is what you have in the DJI Air 3, and I have a DJI Air 3, so I kind of like that OcuSync 4.0 because it does have a greater range, and based on what I can tell, it should help out with situations where you got a lot of things that might cause interference. So having OcuSync 4.0 is a definite improvement, and having that on the Mini 4 Pro, that's kind of really cool. That's great. So as far as like wind and everything, it's pretty much the same as like in the Mini 3, although I've heard that like the propeller noise on the Mini 4 is actually a little bit less noisy. So what I've heard is less noisy. I'll have to try that out myself, but definitely they're saying that it's a little bit quieter. So that's kind of a nice thing about the Mini 4 Pro. I don't know exactly if it's something with the propellers or the motors. That's something I don't have some detail on, but I definitely, that's what some owners of the Mini 4 Pro have noticed. The other thing about the camera, let's talk about the camera on the Mini 4. This is another thing that was a selling point for me. It's the same 24 millimeter f1.7 sensor, but the electronics, I guess the firmware on this for this camera allows it to support a new feature, or two new features, or depends how you look at it. It now supports 4K video at 100 frames per second, as well as 1080p video at 200 frames per second. Now you don't have that with the Mini 3 Pro, but that is definitely here with the Mini 4 Pro. So that's another highlight. That's another thing that kind of was justification for me to want to upgrade to this drone. The other thing I did find too is that it does have waypoints, and that's kind of like what's in the Mavic 3 Pro. And so it's kind of cool that you find that in the smaller drone, the actual Mini 4 now has waypoints that you can actually even save. So let's say you want to map out your waypoints during the day, but the sun is too bright and you want to wait for like sunset or maybe early morning. So you can now actually save the waypoints and actually reuse them later when the conditions are better for you to actually do your video recording. So that is a really cool feature, and actually having that in a small drone, that's fantastic. So that was another thing that I did like about that. It also supports now 10-bit D-Log, which is not in the Mini 3 Pro. I think they only support up to 8-bit. And I believe they do not support the D-Log. So you now have the D-Log capability on the Mini 4 Pro. So that's kind of great because again, being it's a small drone, that is a lot of features. If you think about it, it is a lot of features in a very small drone. So that's pretty good overall. So, you know, you've never flown a drone and this is your first time and you're trying to find one to fly and you want all the safety features. The Mini 4 Pro is a good drone to actually get as a starter. So that's something to look at. Now, another thing I did like that's there, by the way, that I kind of like is that you have cruise control capability with this. So essentially you can actually program, let's say like the C1 button on your RC controller, which the C1 button is down here. So you can program that on your RC2 controller to actually enable the cruise control on this so that if you're having it flying a certain direction, you can just click that C1 button and it just continues like cruise control in a car. So I think that's kind of cool. Now there's something too that's new to the camera. Again, it's same camera, 24mm f1.7. They now have the night video mode. You see that in the Air 3 and the Mavic 3, but it wasn't there with the Mini 3 Pro, but now you do have that with the Mini 4 Pro. And what the night video mode is doing essentially, same camera, same sensor, but it's got firmware that now does the increasing of the ISO automatically for you when you're doing the night video mode. And that's a setting in the drone that you can set up, and it's actually called that the night video mode. Also what it does, in addition to the automatic increasing of the ISO, is also it applies a noise reduction to your video. So that also helps in making the video a lot better as well. And again, recapping on the Active Track 360, it's something definitely that I do like. It is something you can customize. Again, you've got the two rings, you got the inner ring and the outer ring, and you can actually move the drone around while you're having it track you, which is pretty good. Again, that's just a nice new feature in the Mini 4 Pro drone. So the other thing, of course, was the bottom auxiliary light that was not there in the Mini 3 Pro. I really kind of like that because I've got that with the other drones, so that's great. So again, to summarize, why should you upgrade? Or you know, you hear these videos out there everywhere, you know, don't buy it, or, you know, not worth the upgrade. I'll tell you how I look at it. And again, this is just my own personal opinion. If I can justify it for myself, or maybe if I just want it, there's just no reason why I shouldn't buy it. You know, if I want to buy it and I can afford it, I'll just buy it. You know, if I can sell my other one, great. You know, if not, if I want to keep both, I'll keep both. So really, there's no you should or shouldn't. It's kind of one of those that you have to look at what features are there, and part of this video is kind of to cover some of that, and see whether or not you want to upgrade. If you don't have a drone and you're starting from scratch and you want something to start with, I think the Mini 4 Pro drone is really good. Even the Mini 3 Pro is a good one if you're just starting off with something, you know, you've never flown a drone, it might be worthwhile. But if you do want the obstacle avoidance, that is something to look at. So there you have it, guys. I do appreciate you guys watching this video, and please make sure to click on the like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It does help with my YouTube stats. It also helps me in continuing doing videos for you guys to check out. And again, I hope this helps. And if you got any questions, feel free to add in the comments. And again, appreciate you guys watching this video, and have a good day.